It is finally time to launch this rocket into outer space. Seymour, check oxygen tank number 8. Alright, here we go!
What are you doing?
Woman, get the mother tea! Cid Highwind. Abrasive to some, laid back to others, and overall one of the most beloved characters of the series. But why is Cid so cool? Why did he get so many votes when I asked which character you wanted to see next? A lot of people would probably attribute it to his overall badassery, but I have a different idea. I think it's because, surprisingly enough, he's the most relatable character in the entirety of Final Fantasy VII. A soldier tainted by Mako poisoning and alien cell experiments conducted by a mad scientist? Not very relatable. A four-legged Native American-inspired warrior who lives for hundreds of years and is one of the only survivors of its kind? Also not very relatable. A man who loses his dream due to somebody else's mistake and government interference and suffers from anger issues? Extremely relatable! Who hasn't had plans changed because of the stupidity of another person or the hindrance of a higher-up authority? And watching this relatable character follow their dreams is the key to good storytelling and a one-way trip to the emotional feels train. Cid as a character is sort of an anti-hero. He has a short temper, a sailor's tongue, and he's a chain smoker. But under pressure, he always does the right thing, and he is even voted the temporary party leader when Tifa and Cloud are both MIA. Cid simply wears working clothes and looks pretty similar in all of his appearances, although in the Kingdom Hearts series he chews a toothpick instead of smoking a cigarette, most likely because of the younger demographic of the series. Cid has a strangely conflicting personality. Although he is abrasive, he is also loving. Although he has a love for science and knowledge, he commonly falls asleep when the party comes up with battle plans. He also talks in a very oxymoronic way. He commonly insults the party for going after Shinra, even though he agrees with the idea. He also changes his feelings about saving the planet throughout the game. He starts with no care in the world about the party's mission, but later in the game makes a heroic speech about rescuing the planet. We don't know much about Cid's past, but we do know that he was born on February 22, 1975, making him 26 years old in Before Crisis, 32 years old in Final Fantasy VII, 34 years old in Advent Children, and 35 years old in Dirge of Cerberus. We also know that since childhood, Cid dreamed of being the first man in outer space. After proving himself a great pilot by personally designing the Tiny Bronco and the Highwind, Shinra chooses Cid to be the pilot for their Shinra number 26. In Before Crisis Final Fantasy VII, on the scheduled launch day of the rocket, April 11th in Year 3, or 2003, Avalanche attempts to attack the rocket and stop the launch. They steal an oxygen tank, but Cid tells Shinra to continue with the launch anyways. Then Avalanche kidnaps Cid, but he is rescued and the launch continues. As seen in the flashback in Final Fantasy VII, Cid's assistant Shara is still doing a safety check on oxygen tank number 8 as the countdown commences. At the last moment before the rocket takes off, Cid shuts the rocket down, saving Shara's life and causing the rocket to launch a few feet into the air before smashing back down on the landing pad. Cid pledges to take care of the rocket until another launch can be attempted, but Shinra cuts funding for the space program and the rocket becomes abandoned. Because of this, Cid blames Shara for destroying his dream, and Shara accepts the blame, devoting her life to Cid in order to atone for her mistake. The rocket itself becomes a tourist attraction and spawns a town around the base called Rocket Town. During the events of Final Fantasy VII, in December of Year 7, Cloud and the party meet Cid in Rocket Town during their pursuit of Sephiroth. Rufus, who is also on a search for Sephiroth, visits Rocket Town on the same day. Cid hopes that the meeting is to reinstate the space program, but Rufus actually just wants to take the Tiny Bronco to help in his pursuit of Sephiroth. Cid refuses, and as a result, Palmer tries to steal the plane instead. Shara tells the party, and they go out to stop him. During the fight, the plane begins to take off, so Cloud and the gang jump on. Cid jumps on board mid-flight, with some kind of crazy superhero jump, but before he can get control of the plane, Rufus orders his soldiers to shoot it down. The plane then crashes into the sea, becoming a makeshift boat. Cid, having his dreams smashed once again and having no reason to return to Rocket Town, joins Cloud in the party, stating, "Anyone stupid enough to go up against Shinra nowadays has gotta be a numbskull. I like it." Later on in the story, when Cloud disappears, Cid persuades the crew of the Highwind to defect from Shinra and uses the Highwind as his new crew along with the rest of the party members to rescue Tifa and Barret. Shortly after, when the party finds Cloud and Tifa stays with him, Cid is appointed leader of the group. During this time, Cid leads the team on 2 missions to attack Mako reactors to get huge materia before the Shinra can. After these 2 missions, Cid and the gang return to Medeal to check on Cloud. Ultimate Weapon attacks the town, and Cid and the gang fight it until it runs away. At the same time, an earthquake hits the town, and Tifa and Cloud fall into the life stream. Cid and the gang find them washed ashore and take them to the Highwind. Afterwards, Cid hands his leadership status back over to Cloud. You may think that Cid would go back to being a background character at this point, but one quick submarine mission later and Cid is back on the main stage as the team must return to Rocket Town to stop Shinra from launching the final huge materia into space in an attempt to destroy Meteor. Instead of stopping the rocket, however, the party ends up inside the rocket just as Palmer hits the button to launch it. The rocket fires off into space and Cid realizes that he just accidentally achieved his dream to go to space. Cid is awestruck, and although he can't stop the rocket from crashing into Meteor, he activates the escape pod to help the party escape before impact. Cid and Cloud work together to steal the huge materia from the rocket and then head down to the escape pod. But on the way, oxygen tank number 8 explodes and the debris pins Cid to the ground. Realizing that Shara was right about the tank all along, he apologizes out loud and tells the others to go on without him. Shara then appears, having secretly boarded the ship, and helps save Cid. The party boards the escape pod, and at this moment a huge change in Cid's personality is seen. He compliments and even apologizes to Shara, and later gives an amazing speech about the planet and the party's duty to protect it. As stated before, Cid never had much care for the task at hand. But after this revelation, Cid realizes that the planet is a little kid sick and trembling in the middle of this huge universe. Someone's gotta protect it. You follow me? That someone is us. After this, Cid becomes a background character as the party learns about Eris's holy sacrifice and travels to the North Crater to defeat Sephiroth. Afterwards, during the events of On the Way to a Smile, in the case of Barret, Cid and Shara work on a new airship that would eventually be called the Shara. Cid also helps Barret find a new purpose in life, as his only purpose was to save the planet and rid the world of Shinra. Barret tells Cid that he should use the Shara to help people with geostigma find help, which Cid agrees to, but says that he needs to find a suitable fuel source first. 1 year later, during the events of Advent Children, Cid apparently found that fuel source as he pilots a new airship and helps the party fight Bahamut Sin.
She's a beauty. My Shara, the latest model. I'll give you the grand tour afterward.
1 year after that, during the events of Dirge of Cerberus, Cid works as the leader of an airship division with the support of the World Regenesis Organization, which is basically the new Avalanche formed by Reeve, and helps in the Battle of Midgar alongside Vincent and Yuffie.
All in a day's work.
Cid is considered the Dragoon of Final Fantasy VII, as he wields a spear and uses several jumping attacks as limit breaks. I always found it weird that Cid's weapon of choice is spears. One would expect that he would use guns, given his personality, and there's also the fact that he, He has high defensive stats and lower magic and MP stats. When Cid joins the party, his level is equal to the average party level plus 3. Cid's spears are pretty powerful and usually have a lot of materia slots. Cid also has one of only 2 triple growth weapons in the game, the scimitar. In addition, Cid possesses the greatest materia growth weapon in the entire game, the javelin, which has 5 materia slots with double growth. When it comes to leveling up a lot of materia at once, most growth weapons are actually kind of useless. Since 2 triple growth slots only does the work of 6 normal slots, a simple 8-slotted weapon or armor would be better. However, 2 weapons in the game, Cloud's Apocalypse and Cid's Javelin, do the work of 9 and 10 slots respectively, making them the only 2 pieces of equipment in the game to exceed the experience gain of an 8-slotted weapon or armor. Cid's ultimate weapon, the Venus Gospel, does more damage based on how full his MP gauge is, up to 3 times normal damage. Cid's limit breaks are all based on physical power and usually deal multiple hits for massive damage. Cid's first limit break, Boost Jump, deals 3 1/4 times normal damage to a single enemy. Dynamite deals 2 1/4 times normal damage to all enemies. Hyper Jump deals 3 1/2 times normal damage to all enemies and has a 20% chance to inflict instant death. Dragon deals 1 1/4 times normal damage and heals Cid's HP and MP by the same amount, but is capped at the enemy's current MP. Dragon Dive hits 6 random enemies dealing 1 7/16 normal damage each hit and has a 28% chance to inflict instant death each hit. Big Brawl hits 8 random enemies dealing 1 1/8 normal damage each hit. Cid's ultimate limit break, Highwind, is the second strongest limit in the game by pure calculation, with 18 random hits dealing 11/16 times normal damage each hit. If your characters are already maxed out and hitting for 9,999 each hit, Highwind along with Barrett's Anger Max become the strongest limits in the game as they hit the most times. Unlike a lot of other characters, Cid was generally the same during the development of the game. The only big change to the character was when he joins the party. Originally, Cid was going to join the party during the trip to space. Cid would have been tricked by Shinra into piloting the rocket to the moon, unaware that it was on a crash course with Meteor. The party would have hopped onto the rocket to save Cid, unable to convince him until the rocket was already launched and using the escape pod just as they do in the final version. This idea was most likely changed due to the fact that Cid would have joined the party far too late to be a big impact on the plot, and he wouldn't have been able to lead the party in Cloud and Tifa's absence as he does in the final game. His job class was originally labeled as Pilot (Dragoon), which gives us the confirmation that Square also intended Cid to be a Dragoon-like character. In Advent Children, Cid is voiced by Kazuyuki Yama in Japanese and Chris Edgerly in English, who also voiced Cid in Kingdom Hearts 2 as well as minor characters in Final Fantasy 12, 13, and 13-2. Cid's theme plays when Cid first introduces himself to the party and also during his realization of finally reaching space. His theme also plays on the world map after the party defeats Diamond Weapon just before the raid on Midgar, and will continue to play until the party starts the raid. A melody of his theme can also be heard during the final FMV of the game as the Highwind is being ejected out of the North Crater. Cid also has many other tracks that seem to be connected to his character, including The Highwind Takes to the Skies, countdown, launching a dream into space, and one of my personal favorites, steal the tiny Bronco. Although Cid is the final party member to join the gang, unless Vincent Yuffie joins late, he has a lot of impact on the game's story, soundtrack, and dialogue. He is also one of 3 characters to be given team leader status, have an overworld sprite, and have the ability to race in chocobo races and play the snowboarding game. Cid is also part of a long-lasting tradition of characters named Cid in Final Fantasy games. Although, unlike the other Cids, Cid's last name is also a recurring word in the franchise. Highwind is used in the series to signify the wind element and the Dragoon class. Well, I hope you learned a lot about Cid, and I hope you enjoyed this video as well. Usually, I'd ask you guys to tell me what character you'd like to see next by posting in the comments below, but I've decided I'd rather put all of the control in your hands. So, I created a poll over at 48productions.com. Just go on over to the homepage and scroll all the way down to vote for who you want to see, and whoever wins the poll will be the next in-depth look. And don't worry, this isn't some kind of scam to get you to go to my website and make me money off of ads. My website is completely ad-free and I don't make any revenue off of your votes. However, if you would like to support this show and make sure that there is another in-depth look at all, you can check out my Patreon page. I'd really appreciate it, and you can also get access to a lot of awesome exclusive stuff by becoming a member. For example, if you sign up for $1 a month, you'll get access to a bunch of exclusive videos, including an exclusive video to go along with this video where I talk about my personal feelings about Cid as a character in the game. Thanks again for watching this in-depth look, and I'll see you next time.